Hello and welcome back everyone. So now we've got this in place. Now we just need our big bundle of rope that's basically going to hold our catapult in place. So let's first of all make sure that we start in the center. So Shift S and cursor to selected, Shift A, and we'll bring in another cylinder. So let's bring in a cylinder. 20 should be fine, as we've already looked. This is 20. Maybe let's go up to 24, make it a bit more round, like so. And then R X 90. Let's turn it round. And now we just need to make sure that how big our rope's going to be and how far this is going to come out. So now we've made it smaller. It's perfectly in place. Let's bring it out a bit. So SY, and I imagine that there's probably going to be two pieces of rope going up to our catapult in this sort of angle. So we'll make sure that that we've got enough rope on here. So I think we'll make it just a tad bigger, like so. I think that'll be the right thickness. And these want to be quite thick, actually, these ends on them. It needs to look like it's big and brutal looking kind of thing. So now let's press Tab. Press Ctrl R to bring in an edge loop, and let's press 2 to start with. Left click, right click, and then S and Y, and let's bring them out. And if they don't bring out like that, just make sure that you're on medium point again, and then S, Y, bring them out. And I think on this that actually the ends of them would probably be all the way up, near enough. So we'll try that, and if not, we can bring them in a little bit. So now let's come to our face select, and we're going to select both of these faces, like so. To just make sure they're selected. Shift D, Enter, and then we can come up to our links, individual origins, and now press S, and let's just get them to the scale that we want them. And like I said, they're going to have to be quite thick because they're holding a lot of rope, these things. So I think we'll have 2 on there, but I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So at the moment, they're probably, I would say, hanging over a bit too much. We press 7 on the number pad, then press S and Y, and let's just bring them in a slight bit. I'll probably mirror them over as well. So I think for now, I'm just going to work on this one. And I'll actually delete that one just to make it easier for us. So again, delete vertices, and now we can work on this one. So I'm thinking the best way to actually make this look realistic. So I think first of all, I'll split it off from the rest. Then I'll grab it again, and then I'll come to modifiers and solidify, and we'll bring the thickness up. And we can see that's looking fairly nice already, and I think it would have actually 2 pieces of wood here. So I think at the moment I will apply that, and then I'll press on it, so Shift D, and I'll right click, set origin to geometry, and now I can move it over, and now we'll make this piece slightly smaller, something like that, and bring it in just a little bit. And I think that'll look quite good like that. And I think I'll bring it over both of them. So I'll bring them over just a little bit, and I want a steel bit actually on this bit here, holding it all together. So I can nick this one here. So let's go to vert select, select the whole thing with L, Shift D, bring it out here. Press the S button, let's bring it bigger, and this will be our tiny bit of steel on top of a massive log, basically. Okay, so that's looking quite nice. And the good thing about this part is it's already UV unwrapped, so that's good. So now I can separate this out. So I'll press P, selection, and let's separate this out from this. And now we've got these already separated, so let's join all these up, because we're going to mirror them over anyway. So Ctrl J, and now they're all joined up. We're not going to smooth them off yet, we don't need to do that quite yet. And now what we'll do is we'll bring in our first piece of rope just to see what it looks like, and then we'll know if we can go ahead with how far this is in. So what we'll do is, if we come up to edit, if you missed the last lesson, come up to edit, preferences, and put in extra and add extra objects. Make sure that's ticked on, click refresh, close it down. And now when we bring in Shift A and we come over, and we'll have something called Torus, and we want to bring in a Supertoid. Now a lot of the time I find that the Supertoids are very hard to judge how thick they're going to be when you make them smaller. So I really wish that in Blender we could turn these round, manipulate them, and still be able to change them, but unfortunately we can't. So the first thing is that we need to make sure that when this is smoothed off, it actually looks smooth. So where we've got it like this, we'll actually smooth it off right now, and we can see that, okay, that's relatively smooth. I think if we went any lower on the polygons, then we would lose that smoothness and the rope would look, well, not very good. So now we know that that's okay. Let's delete that. Shift A, and we'll go to Mesh again, Torus, Supertoid. Now what you need to do is you need to just make sure that you've got the same settings as what I've got, so 16 and 8, and that's quite a lot of polygons actually on 16. Let me look at just bringing those down to, let's have a look, let's try 14, 8, and also I need to probably bring the, which one is it, the small radius down just a little bit. And again I'm going to do two tests now. Right click, shade smooth, and I'm looking to see if that's okay, and I think we'll just get away with that. Could do with maybe one more ring going round, and then what I'll do is I'll turn it round, so RX 90, and remember this is going to be rope, so it's got to be, if you look at our man, he's got to actually hold this in his hands. So you can see here that it's very thick, this rope, so perhaps it needs going a bit smaller as well. But remember, the rope's actually got to also pull down this catapult, so perhaps a little bit thinner. So let's delete that. Shift A, Mesh, Torus. And what I didn't want to do in this is I didn't want to bring it, I didn't want to bring this in and just here's all the buttons that you need to put in and that's it. I want to show you how I actually do it and how I experiment with it. So I can see that I said the V segments need to go up one, and the size of the thing needs to come down. So we know the small radius needs to come down perhaps one. Let's try 2. And again I'm going to experiment, so right click, shade smooth, and that's looking a little bit better. RX 90, and now let's bring it down, and you'll see straight away, hopefully, that this now fits in his hand much better. And now I'll just press Ctrl Z, I'll put it back, and we'll look at where this rope's going to go. And when you're doing rope, it's always good to just bend it over, and I'm just looking now if we line rope up along here, what it's actually going to look like. So yeah, I think I'm happy with how that looks. So Ctrl Z once more, and what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to mark seam. So let's just hide this part at the moment just so I can get into this. And I'm going to come down the bottom, and of course I'm marking seams now because I want to make it easy for myself. So let's mark a seam there. And we're going to mark them on the inside because no one can see the inside of these things. So Control E, mark seam, and then I'm going to press Tab, Alt H, and now I can see exactly where this thing's going to go. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And now actually what we'll do is we'll mirror these over this chunk here. So first of all, we'll right click and we'll click Shade Smooth. Because this metal piece was already in place, the auto smooth's already on and everything's already basically settled for us. So now let's mirror this over to the other side. So first things we'll do is we'll put the cursor to World Origin, and then we'll right click and we'll set the origin to 3D cursor, and then we'll come over to our modifiers. mirror modifier, and we're going to do Y once more. And we might as well, before we finish and hit the apply button, we might as well just check and make sure that we've got seams marked on these. So press tab once more. Let's hide this part, and this part, and we might as well hide this actually, just to give us room to play with. So click back on your big wooden pieces, and the first thing we know is we can definitely get rid of these faces in here. No one's going to see these, so we'll delete those faces. And then what we'll do is we'll mark some seams out on this part first. So let's come in and grab these here. So Control E, and I can see that the other one is there. Control E, and I can see it's here. Control E, mark seam. And now I'm going to go down the bottom. I'm going to mark a seam right at the bottom where no one can see it. Mark seam. And we don't need one on the inside, but we do need one in here. So the easiest way to do that is to press Z, wireframe, and I can see my seam is here. So Control E, mark seam, Z, go back in solid, and there we go. That one's done. So let's hide that one. And now we're just left with this, and we'll mark these seams there. And I think it's there. Yeah, that's the... Is that the seam there? No, that's the seam from this look. So I'll just take that off and I'll grab this one. Control E, mark seam. And again, I'll mark the seam underneath. So Control E, mark seam. Come to face select, and let's grab all these faces here. Delete, faces, and there we go. Okay, so there are all the seams marked. I'm just making sure that the seams are marked on this one as well. And this here doesn't look like it's got a seam actually marked. So let me just have a look to see if it has. So I'm going to go to Vert Select, grab the whole thing, press H for hide, and I'm just making sure. Yeah, it's got the seam marked, so that's fine. It's got a seam marked underneath as well, which is where it needs. So we'll find out anyway if there's any problems when we come to UV unwrap them. So now let's press Alt H, press Tab, Alt H once more. And now when we click on just these, press the tab button, when we apply this, it should hopefully apply that mirror to the other side. And it has done. So there we go. Right, now let's deal with the rope, which we've already marked the seams on. We have one more seam to mark. I think we marked it on the inside. Let me just check that. And yeah, the seam's marked on the inside, so that's good. Just make sure that you check that just before you do anything else. And lastly, also, I want to make sure that this is smoothed off, ready for action. So shade smooth, come over to your triangle, click on auto smooth, and you can see now that that's looking as it should. So let's just have one more look around just to make sure it's all looking right, which it is. And now let's grab our first piece of rope. So Shift D, and where are we going to come up to? So we don't want them right at the ends. The problem is that when you put them right at the ends, you've got more rope to fill, and we don't really want to do that because it's a fair bit of rope. So we're going to try and split them up as much as possible. So all I'm doing is Shift D, R, and X just to make them look a little bit different. And remember, the closer to the middle, the probably more tightly wound they are. So just keep going across like so. And as we then come to this part, we'll actually start bending them the other way, like so. And I'll bend this one that way, just to make it look a bit different. And also we're going to have some rope on the top, so RX, let's put that like so. Okay, they're looking fairly different. Now we need to bring in another torus, and the reason we need to bring in another torus is if I duplicate this, so Shift D, and now make it bigger. Let's just make sure I've got it. Yeah, I have. And now make it bigger. You can see that it's a lot bigger than the other rope that we had. So let's delete that. And first of all, we'll click on this, Shift S, and cursor to selected. Shift A, mesh, and let's look torus, supertoid, and it will come in exactly the same as the other one. And what we need to do is now we need to bring down this small radius like so, and hopefully now we'll just test it out again. We'll turn it round first on the X, so RX 90, make it smaller, and now you can see that it's looking round about the right size. So now let's shade that one smooth. And of course the other thing is that before we actually start making a load of these, let's just make it bigger, tab, and we're going to mark our seam. So grab the bottom of it, Control E, mark seam, inside of it, Control E, mark seam. And now we can grab it and make it smaller. And we don't want too many of these because obviously it's a lot of polygons, so we just want it to basically look as though there's something underneath it, something on top of it. And let's put that one in there. And where are we going to put this one? I think that one will go there. Turn it around slightly. And I think when we've got these on, that it's going to look enough, hopefully, to get away with as few polygons as possible. And I think we'll get away with maybe one more. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so now double tap A. And I think that's going to be enough. Now, the other thing is, let's just hide this wheel now, and this, and now let's press B and drag it across to all of them. Just make sure you don't click on that. Shift click on any of them, Control J, and now let's just add them all together like so. Alt H, bring everything back, double tap A, and now we can see what it's going to look like. And I think the last thing we'll do for this lesson is we will just build this strut up just a little bit. So how we'll do that is we'll press tab on here, and we'll actually use this piece of wood here, so Shift D, and let's make it just slightly smaller, and we're going to extrude it out, so E, pull it out, and I'm just looking, I want to actually bring this round, so if I press RZ, and you'll see what I mean. So I want there to be some kind of strength holding this thing together. RZ. I don't want it to pass that middle bit, but I want one either side. So I'm looking now to see, right, okay, is that going to hold it enough? And I want a smaller one the other side, so Shift D. And let's turn it round the other way. And again, they don't need to be exact or anything like that. I would, let's have a look, see if it looks better. This one out here. I just want to make sure that I don't go past this middle line. And don't worry about the sizing at the moment. We'll sort that out. So I'm just looking if they look better. Yeah, I think they'll look better joined together. So as though they're on the same kind of level. Even though they're at different angles. So just make your something like that. And I think that's looking a lot stronger. And now I'm just looking, right, where are they poking through? Are they poking through? And I can see it poking through here, so I don't want that. So let's come down, grab this edge, and bring it in just past there. And you can see that it's altered this a little tiny bit. So let's now bring it just back, just to make it so it's kind of the same length. And now I'll just check to make sure this one's not poking out, which it isn't, so that one's fine. And now finally all we need to do is we need to just hide this, and we can hide this one as well in a minute. So I'll just grab this, so L, P, selection, grab it, hide it, and now we've got these two pieces of wood here. So let's do this one first, and we want to split them up anyway, so I'll grab this one and this one, P, selection, tab, click on it, tab once more, and now we'll click on this face, and grab this face, and this face, and delete faces. And I might as well add a seam while I'm here actually. So in a block like this with no ends on, the easiest way to add a seam is just one seam underneath each one. So Control E, mark seam, and that looks that looks like it's ready to rock and roll. So let's press Alt H, make sure there's nothing added to them. Tab, Alt H once more. Click on your two new supports. And what we'll do now is we'll make sure our cursor, first of all, is in the middle. So cursor to world origin, right click, set origin to 3D cursor, Control A, rotation and scale. Again, come over to your add modifier and let's add the mirror modifier on the Y, like so. And let's double tap A while we look at it, and you can see that that's looking much stronger. The only thing is we just need one more piece of wood just to give this a little bit more strength, and then that should be near enough the bottom of it done, albeit we might need one more end on here. That's all the same, nearly the same as the front. So we'll apply that now, and then what we'll do is we'll take this part here and we'll press Shift D and we'll move it over. We'll make it much smaller, and I want this bit to be perhaps a little bit flatter, so I'm just looking underneath and looking to see if that'll fit. I'm pressing SZ, and the reason I'm doing that is I just want it a bit thinner. I'm just making sure it fits. So now SY, bringing it out and pull it back just so it's not poking through there, and let's have a look at that. And you can see, like, now, okay, this thing looks very strong. I'm just going to have a look to see if it looks better in that way. Let's have a look. Yeah, and that looks so much better like that. Okay, so that's looking very nice. Yeah, I mean, I think let's just have a look and see, Shift D, if we need another one here as well, or if that's too much. Yeah, it's too much. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll just do the back. So let's move our guy out of the way, and we'll come to these back parts on face select, and we'll do them, I think, both at the same time. So press E, pull them out, and these bits I have a feeling would just end a little bit different to the others, so I'm just going to grab these around here, and I'm going to press E, enter. I'm going to make sure I'm on individual origins, then I'm going to press S, like so. I'm going to move them forward a little bit, so now we've got the metal stoppers on, and what I want to do now is make these smaller. So I'll make them smaller, and then let's pull these out just like that, and they're going to be the metal bits, and I've just made sure that they're not coming past here. And I'm thinking one more thing we can do just to give it a little bit more is E once more, S, bring them in, and finally, in fact, I'll bring them in just a little bit more, and now bring them back one little tiny bit, and I can hold Shift down as well to make it very slow when I pull them back. Let's look at that. Okay, and that's looking like a piece of metal now. The front bits are obviously wood, that's why we've tapered these out, but the back bits are metal. And lastly, what we'll do now is we want a bolt just going through here, and then these bolts, like I say, we can use all the time. So to make we want a roundish bolt on this part, and we're going to need some bolts probably on here going up, so 3 bolts on here, let's say. So what we'll do is we'll grab, first of all, we'll do our side bolts. So let's go in to vert select, and we'll grab this bolt, Shift D, enter, bring it out, R, X90, and we're going to make these perhaps a little bit bigger. So let's put that one there. We want 3 of these, so let's have a look. S, I'm making it just a tiny bit bigger. Shift D, like so. Shift D, and like I said, they don't need to be exactly the same, in the same place. That wouldn't be realistic, so let's just put those in place now. And finally now what we'll do is, we've got our cursor in the middle, so if we come to these and we press P, selection, click on them, right click, set origin to 3D cursor, and now we can press Shift D, enter, R, Z, 180, and that should put them around the other side like that, and that's exactly what I want. And we don't need to move the other side around because, like I say, you can never see it from both sides, so that's fine like that. And now finally that last bolt we talked about, which I want in here, so we'll press Shift A while the cursor's in the center, and we're going to bring in a UV sphere. And when you first bring it in, I'll come underneath so you can see it's way too many, so let's bring this down to something like, let's try 6, a bit higher, 8 should be okay. And now let's bring down these as well, and I'm basically looking just at this part here, and I think that's going to round off very nicely. So 8 and 9, and now let's press tab, come to face select, and we'll use it from here. So Alt Shift click, delete faces, L, delete vertices, and now let's grab this bottom, pull it up, R, X, 180, and now let's make it smaller, like so. And we'll also make it a little bit steeper, so SZ, just a little tad like that, 7, and let's bring it into where it's going to go, and let's have a look. It's going to go on top of that one, so 7 again, make it smaller, like so. Let's put it in place, and now I'll press dot on my number pad, and I'm just going to bring it down just to fit it in place, just so it drops below that plane there. And then finally all I need to do now is Shift D, bring it over, and this one I just want to rotate it just a little bit and just move it up like that. And finally now all I need to do is right click and shade smooth, and there we go. Okay, let's have one last look around it, and you can see that that's looking very realistic. And once we've got our materials on here, it's going to even push this model even further. So, hope you enjoyed that one, everyone. On the next one, we should be able to start work on our supports on these bits. This is why we've been putting all these supports in. And soon we'll actually be on to the most fun bit, which in my opinion is the main part of the catapult. So, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.